Snow fell softly over Maplewood Square, turning the streets into a quiet winter dream. Christmas lights glowed from every shop window. Laughter drifted through the air. Couples walked hand in hand. Families posed for photos beside a giant decorated tree. But at a small cafe near the corner, Emily Carter sat alone. Emily was deaf. She had been deaf since childhood, after a severe illness stole her hearing when she was only 5. The world had gone silent that day, but she had learned to live inside that silence with grace. Tonight, she wore a simple blue dress and a warm cream-colored coat. Her brown hair was tied neatly back. She kept checking her phone. 7:10 p.m. He was already 10 minutes late. Emily took a slow breath and reminded herself not to panic. This was supposed to be her Christmas blind date. Her best friend Sarah had arranged it. He's kind, Sarah had signed excitedly. Single father, 2 little girls. Very respectful. I think you'll like him. Emily had hesitated. Dating had always been hard. Some men treated her like she was fragile. Others got uncomfortable around sign language. A few disappeared after learning she was deaf. But Sarah had insisted, so Emily had agreed. She folded her hands on the table and waited. Waiting, again. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Emily's smile faded. She watched couples enter and leave the cafe. The waitress came over twice, asking politely if she wanted anything else. Emily shook her head. Her phone buzzed. Her heart jumped, but it was only a holiday promotion message. She swallowed hard. Maybe he's stuck in traffic. She opened her notes app and typed a message to Sarah. He's not here yet. Been waiting 30 minutes. Sarah replied quickly. That's strange. He told me he was leaving home an hour ago. Emily stared at the screen. Her chest tightened. Old memories surfaced. Cancelled dates, excuses, uncomfortable silences. She folded her napkin carefully, trying to stay calm. Another 15 minutes passed. Her hands trembled slightly. Finally, she typed again. I think he's not coming. Sarah responded. I'm so sorry, Emily. I'll call him. Emily placed the phone face down. Tears threatened to rise, but she forced them back. Not here, not on Christmas. She stood slowly, pulling on her gloves. Her reflection in the cafe window looked tired. Why do I keep hoping? She walked outside into the cold. Snowflakes landed on her eyelashes. She began walking toward the bus stop, her footsteps quiet against the snow. The man who never arrived. Across town, Mark Thompson sat frozen in his car. His hands were gripping the steering wheel. He had tried to start the engine again and again. Nothing. Dead battery. His phone had slipped under the seat earlier while helping his daughters into their coats. By the time he found it, it had died too. He slammed his fist lightly against the dashboard. No, no, please. He imagined Emily waiting. He had promised himself he wouldn't do this. After his wife had passed away 3 years earlier, dating felt impossible. But Sarah had convinced him too. You deserve happiness, she'd said. And so did his girls. Now here he was, stranded. He leaned back in frustration, unaware that Emily was already walking away. A quiet breakdown. Emily reached the bus stop. It was empty. She sat down on the cold bench. Her shoulders began to shake. She covered her face with her hands. Silent tears fell. She wasn't crying loudly. She never did. She cried quietly, the way deaf people often do, without sound. She felt invisible, rejected. Again, she pulled out her phone and typed a message to Sarah. I'm heading home. She stood. Then suddenly, she felt someone tug gently on her coat. She turned. 2 little girls stood in front of her. They looked about 6 years old. Both wore matching pink hats. One held a stuffed rabbit. The other raised her tiny hands and signed slowly. Are you Emily? Emily froze. Her heart skipped. She nodded. The girl swallowed nervously, then signed again. Our daddy needs you. Emily's breath caught. The other twin joined in, copying her sister's signs. His car broke. He tried to come. Emily stared in disbelief. Then she saw Mark jogging toward them from across the street, breathless, coat open, snow in his hair. He stopped in front of her. His eyes were full of apology. He placed his hand over his heart and signed carefully. I'm so sorry. I didn't stand you up. Emily's lips trembled. She looked at the twins. Then at Mark. Her eyes filled with tears, this time different. Mark continued signing, slowly but sincerely. My girls insisted on finding you. They know some sign language. They wouldn't let me give up. Emily knelt down to the twins. She signed. Thank you for coming. One twin hugged her instantly. The other smiled shyly. Emily finally smiled back, for the first time that night. And somewhere inside her silent world, hope began to speak again. Mark's hands were still trembling when he finally caught his breath. Snow dusted his shoulders. His cheeks were red from the cold and from running half a block. Emily stood quietly in front of him, holding the little twins' hands. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mark lifted his phone and typed quickly before turning the screen toward Emily. "I swear, I would never walk away from someone like you." Emily read it. Her throat tightened. She nodded slowly. She typed back, "I thought I was invisible again." Mark's eyes softened. He shook his head firmly. He took a small notebook from his coat pocket, he always carried one in case communication became difficult, and wrote, "Not invisible, just waiting for the wrong moment to become the right one." Emily smiled faintly. The twins watched them like curious little birds. The girl with the rabbit tugged on Emily's sleeve and signed, "Can we still eat Christmas dinner?" Emily laughed silently. Mark chuckled out loud. "Yes," he said, then remembered and signed clumsily. "Yes, Christmas, rewritten." They walked together toward a small family restaurant nearby. Mark held the door open. Emily hesitated. He gestured politely. Inside, warm air wrapped around them. The twins climbed into their seats, swinging their legs excitedly. Mark introduced them by writing on his phone, "I'm Mark. These are Lily and Rose." Emily signed her name slowly. The girls copied her hand movements, giggling. Mark explained through typing. Their mom taught them basic sign language before she passed. They never forgot. Emily's smile faded for a moment. She signed gently, "I'm sorry." Mark nodded. 3 years. That's how long it had been since cancer took his wife. He had become both father and mother overnight. Some days he managed. Some days he barely survived. But Lily and Rose had saved him more times than they would ever know. Emily's quiet passed. Over hot cocoa and simple Christmas meals, the walls slowly came down. Emily typed about her childhood illness. About waking up in a hospital room where voices had disappeared. About learning sign language. About classmates who avoided her. About dates that ended the moment men realized communication took effort. Mark read every word. He didn't interrupt. He didn't rush. He listened with his eyes. Then he typed, "People confuse silence with emptiness. But you're full of light." Emily blinked back tears. No one had ever said that to her. The twins leaned against Emily's arms. Rose signed, "Daddy says brave ladies are superheroes." Emily pressed her hand to her chest. A father's confession. Mark finally shared his own story. How he had met his wife in college. How she used to sing while cooking. How the house felt unbearably quiet after she died. How dating felt like betrayal. How lonely nights made him question everything. He typed slowly, "I didn't come tonight looking for a replacement mother." Emily looked up. He continued, "I came because I forgot what it feels like to be seen." Emily reached across the table. She placed her hand gently over his. They didn't need sound. Connection doesn't live in ears. It lives in hearts. A small miracle. After dinner, Lily pulled out crayons from her backpack. She drew 4 stick figures holding hands beneath a Christmas tree. She handed it to Emily. Emily's eyes filled. She signed, "Is this us?" Lily nodded. Rose added, "Our daddy doesn't smile like this anymore." But tonight he did. Mark turned away quickly. Emily saw his shoulders shake. She squeezed his hand. Walking home together, they walked Emily to her apartment. Snow continued falling softly. Mark offered his scarf. Emily declined, then noticed the twins shivering. She wrapped it around both of them instead. Mark smiled. At her door, Emily hesitated. She typed, "Thank you for not giving up." Mark replied, "Thank you for waiting." They exchanged numbers. Before leaving, Rose hugged Emily tightly. She signed, "Please don't disappear." Emily knelt and signed back, "I won't." She meant it. Emily closed her door and leaned against it. Her heart felt strangely full. She hadn't gone on a blind date. She had found something unexpected. Hope. The days after Christmas passed slowly. Emily found herself smiling at her phone more than usual. Mark sent her small messages every morning. "Good morning. Aaj barf gur rahi hai. Girls asked about you." Emily replied with pictures of her coffee, her sketchbook, the sunrise outside her window. They didn't rush. They let things grow gently. Like something fragile. Like something real. Learning each other's world, Mark began taking sign language classes online. Every night, after putting Lily and Rose to bed, he practiced in front of the mirror. His signs were awkward, slow, but sincere. The girls helped. They corrected his fingers. They laughed. They clapped when he got something right. Emily noticed. She noticed everything. One evening Mark video called her. He signed carefully, "I want to learn your language. Not just with my hands. With my life." Emily covered her mouth. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks. Emily's biggest fear. One night, Emily finally shared something she had never told anyone. She typed slowly, "People always leave when life gets hard." Mark read it twice. He signed, "So do storms." She shook her head. She typed, "But I'm deaf. I'm different. I'm extra work." Mark stepped closer to the camera. He signed firmly, "You are not work. You are worth." Emily broke. She cried openly for the first time in years. The twins' plan. Lily and Rose had been whispering for days. Drawing pictures. Hiding papers. Finally, one afternoon, they invited Emily to the park. They built a tiny snowman. Rose held Emily's hand. Lily ran to Mark and handed him something. He walked back, nervous. The girls stood on either side of Emily. Lily signed, "We talked." Rose continued, "Our daddy needs you." Emily froze. Mark knelt. His voice shook, but his hands were steady. He signed, "I don't promise a perfect life. I promise honesty. I promise effort. I promise that my girls will love you loudly." He pulled out a small silver ring. Not fancy, just meaningful. Emily's heart felt like it might explode. He signed, "Will you join our family?" Emily covered her mouth. The park disappeared. The world disappeared. Only 3 faces mattered. She nodded. Hard. Yes. The twins screamed with joy. They jumped. They hugged her legs. Mark slipped the ring onto Emily's finger. She signed, "Yes. A new kind of Christmas." The following Christmas, their house was full. Emily helped the girls decorate cookies. Mark burned the turkey. They laughed. Emily taught Lily and Rose new signs. The girls taught Emily silly dances. That evening, Emily stood by the window, watching snow fall. Mark came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her. He signed into her shoulder. "You changed our silence." Emily turned. She placed her hand over his heart. She signed, "You taught mine to speak." The lesson. Emily had arrived alone that Christmas night. She left with a family. She learned something powerful. Sometimes rejection is just redirection. Sometimes delays are protection. And sometimes, love sends 2 small messengers with tiny hands to remind you. You were never forgotten.